Hey everybody, Lotus Prince here, and it is time to do a Q&A. So I'm going to get right to this, because I got a bunch of questions for you. So here we go. The first question is from Mr. Peanuts Gaming. I really miss your single-player survival horror Let's Plays. So my question is, will you be doing more survival horror games more often? Well, I'll certainly be doing more, and one of them is actually coming up soon, but I can't really answer more often. It's like the way my channel works is with the exception of requests, I play just kind of what I feel like playing at that particular time. So I may get into a survival horror kick, I may not. It's just kind of whatever I really feel like this is the one for me right now. So I can't guarantee more or less often or whatever, but I do have actually a couple coming up in the relatively near future. So there is that. Dark DNA Dragon asks, I'm still waiting for a folklore Let's Play. Is the game too hard or rare to find? Because I can understand that. Actually, I have folklore. I just haven't gotten around to playing it. However, I will tell you that it is a Patreon request for some time down the line, so it is coming for sure. It'll be a while, but it's coming. Gelly Elfson says, do you think it'd be worth it for Konami, or whatever studio works on the Metal Gear games, to remake Metal Gear 1 and 2 in the modern style with 3D graphics and everything? That would be pretty cool. I haven't played Metal Gear 1 or 2, but I had heard that Metal Gear Solid 1, it wasn't a remake of Metal Gear, but it was like, kind of, like a throwback to it. So that may or may not have happened already, at least for Metal Gear 1, but it would be cool to see a reinterpretation of Metal Gear 1 and 2. People might have difficulty getting into the NES game, or the MSX game, if they never have before, so, I don't know. That would be interesting to see, at the very least. I mean, if it works for Resident Evil 2 and 1, right? I mean, not 2D to 3D, but hey. Damador asks, are there any games that you like with bad gameplay but good story? That's usually the kind of game, like, I usually give shoutouts to games that have good story but bad gameplay. There's a bunch. I don't know if I can think of any off the top of my head right now, but I am usually into games for the story unless the gameplay interferes in such a way that it's physically, like, frustrating to actually play. For example, there's this game called Dex with interesting cyberpunk themes, but the gameplay's not that good. Man, it is difficult for me to think of stuff with mediocre or bad gameplay, but good story. I don't know. I mean, I guess Rule of Rose. The gameplay in that game is frustrating, but the story is just brilliant. So there's an example. I actually put off Let's Playing that game for a long time because I hated actually playing it, even though the game is amazing if you are watching it. Same goes for, I guess, the original Drakengard. It's not bad gameplay, it's just really mediocre, very boring and repetitive gameplay, but the story is so crazy that that's what keeps you coming back. Justin Bailey, those JoJo figures, is it worth the watch? I would say yes. I mean, it's not a series for everybody, but it's, I don't know, I find it really entertaining. Also, how has being a YouTuber affected your daily life? I mean, I still do my standard day job and everything like that. It's just that during a bunch of my downtime, I'm probably, unless I'm between Let's Plays or something, I'm probably editing footage and uploading it or something like that. I do spend a bunch of time in my editing software and uploading stuff onto YouTube and things of that sort, so that is a thing that I otherwise would not be doing, but otherwise I would say my daily life is about similar to what it probably otherwise would be. Neon Wave, top 5 cult classic video games. I have no idea. I don't do top 5 lists or top 10 lists because I have a real difficulty ranking things, and even if I did, there is no way I'd be able to say this is number 1, this is number 2, or whatever. Unfortunately, I have difficulty thinking of cult classics because I don't often see, like, what the fans have discovered in the past and are bringing back now. Like, oh, this is a game you should have played. So it's difficult for me to even identify what is a cult classic. I mean, like, there's, like, Snatcher, for example, but is that a cult classic? It's not like only a small subgroup appreciates it. It's like only a small group ever actually freaking bought it because it was underproduced. So, I don't even know. And there are a whole bunch of games that come back like 5 or 10 years later that people discover, oh, it was actually good. Like, I would hardly call Majora's Mask a cult classic game, but it took a while for its audience to appreciate it. You know, like, there were the bunch of people who liked it at the time, but when the next Zelda came out, everyone's like, oh, but Majora's Mask, why couldn't things be dark and edgy like Majora's Mask? So, it's difficult for me to identify what a cult classic game is, other than something that's not obviously one of the huge AAA titles like Uncharted or something. So I don't really have a top 5, or I don't even know if I can give you 5 games, unfortunately. I could just throw out a couple examples like that. Sorry about that. Tyler Crane. What would you consider to be the scariest game of all time? That's difficult. I could tell you the game that has scared me most, but that's on a first playthrough. I don't know how future playthroughs hold up. But, like, for example, Fatal Frame 1 really got me when I first played it. But when I Let's Played it, it wasn't so bad. There's also Never Ending Nightmares. Never Ending Nightmares really got under my skin. The White Days did as well. So, they're up there. Do you have any specific scary moments in a game, or games, that left an impression on you? Well, sure. The original White Day, there's the ceiling crawler. That one freaked me out. There's the moment in Silent Hill 3 where you're walking down a hallway in the hospital and nurses just spawn behind you, but they're off camera, so you don't see them appear. All of a sudden you hear their heavy breathing that, like, and it comes literally out of nowhere, so it's terrifying for a second. There's the bathtub jump scare in Eternal Darkness. This doesn't count as like, oh, you remember this moment, but when I first played the Resident Evil Remake, it was the first horror game I ever played. Just the idea of fixed camera angles, I ran away from a zombie and changed screens, and I was firing at it from a different screen so I couldn't actually see him. And when I went to check on him, when I crossed the screen back to where he was right at the edge, so I basically walked right into him. So my character would have clearly seen him, but I didn't because fixed camera angles. So that really got me the first time. That was a pretty clever scare. Also the dog hallway. The non-jump scare, and then the actual crashing through the window, that was great. What would be your least liked classic Resident Evil? I mean, does classic mean the ones that the people actually played, like Resident Evil 1, 2, 3, Code Veronica, or are we taking any game that's old, like Survivor? Because it seems a little unfair to go in that direction. It's like, obviously, one of the Survivor games or something. But for the least liked of, I don't know, 1 through 7 or something, or 0 or whatever, I don't know. Code Veronica had one of the best stories, but it was the hardest to actually play. But I still like that game, so I don't really know. Maybe 5, because the story was hot garbage, even though it played, like, the best. I still haven't played 6. Yet the game's prior to Resident Evil 4, so I guess not 5, then I can't say 5. I don't know. I mean, 1, 2, 3, and Code Veronica are all good, so I don't know. When is another Resident Evil LP happening? Soon. Insane Buffoon. How do you decide what games you Let's Play and what games you live stream? Yeah, well, live stream, I try to do games that can either be knocked out quickly or would not really be conducive to Let's Playing. Like, for something like Donkey Kong Country or Baroque, what am I gonna say in a Let's Play? Like, yep, I sure am platforming some more. Yep, I sure am going through the 2000th floor that works the same way as all the other floors did. That's more of, I think, a casual experience where the game could just be an excuse for people to get together and talk in the chat, where I actually can say, like, oops, this platforming sure is difficult or something. So I think those games are more conducive to live streaming than Let's Playing. Let's Playing, I prefer to have something that I could actually do a standard commentary over. I did Let's Play Golden Axe with my friends, but I was with my friends. We had the ability to banter back and forth, so that's something. Dave Jackson, will you go back to finishing Let It Die? Probably not. I mean, at some point I'll probably go back to playing it, maybe, but finishing it? That game's free to play. it's designed to take forever. So I don't think I'm going to finish it unless that's the only thing you want to see me stream for months. What games have you played that you went, this game will never be a Let's Play? I don't know. Like, again, probably the games where there's just not really much you can actually say while playing it. Like, yep, it's the same thing over and over again. I don't know what I would say. Or maybe like puzzle games, like the Match 3 stuff, or hidden object game. Well, hidden object games can work, actually. I did do one of those for a live stream. But I don't know if I'll be able to Let's Play those. So it's more puzzle than plot at that point. So maybe stuff like that. Andy Appheim, has there ever been a game you wanted to love and get into, but something keeps you from playing very far in it? I mean, usually I beat what I play, but there are sometimes games where I just can't bother going through with it. Maybe like Hitman 2. That game is just brutally hard. Maybe it's because I played it when I was in like high school or something, but I couldn't get past level 2. It was like, find the right person to assassinate. And if you mess up, then you just lose, and you have to start from a checkpoint that's way too far away, and I just threw my hands up. I was like, forget it. Maybe something like that. Will you play Shaq Fu 2 at any point? You know, I actually wanted to. When I saw that the game was coming out, I was like, yo, this is going to be one of those so good it's bad experiences. But then I saw some gameplay. My friend Old Man Stompy showed me some, and the gameplay looked about like what I thought it would be. But the writing was just bad. And I mean like literally offensive bad. It was like casually racist and transphobic and stuff like that. And it's just like, I think that would just sour the entire play experience. So it's like, maybe we're just not going to do this. Not only was, like, it was just dated humor, because they, like, it's the kind of humor you'd expect in the 80s or 90s, where it might get some chuckles, but, like, it wouldn't fly today, because it's freaking racist, so it's like, no. P.S. Where's Shut Up and Jam 2? I don't know, I'm not making the game. You know, I'm waiting for it too, so it's in development. That's the best answer I have for you. Rhett Buckley, what is your view on strategy games with stories, like the Banner Saga versus ones like Civilization that just focus on gameplay? I would probably prefer, I mean, I haven't played either of those, but I would probably prefer ones with story, because otherwise I'm just clicking units and making them fight other units, and it's like, eh. Although, I mean, I will admit, I do enjoy playing Dungeon Keeper, and there's barely any story in there, so I don't know. It probably depends on which game I'm actually playing. That's kind of a non-answer, but I don't know. Show me a game and I'll tell you if I'm into it. Would it be better to do co-op or single LPs on interactive story games like Until Dawn? That, again, might depend on the nature of the story, but with a broad stroke, I'd probably say co-op, just because you get to back and forth while you're otherwise just watching a movie, and you can get input on decision-making, so I might go with co-op. I loved Until Dawn as a co-op experience. Jacob P. With Part 5, this is JoJo Part 5, due in October, is there any way to explain or showcase King Crimson that will answer some of the many questions people have had about it for years, since it can do so much? I think there is, actually. And for people who don't know anything about Part 5, go ahead and click through the video until you get to this timestamp. Okay, spoiler time. So back when I read the manga when I was in college, the scan later actually gave an extra page dedicated to explaining King Crimson. And what they had said was, imagine the Picasso painting, nude descending a staircase. That was the best we had at the time. However, at this point, I can give you a visual aid. In the anime, the ending credit sequences have had some foreshadowing for the next part. For example, Part 3's ending credits had this crazy design of lines going everywhere, being led by like an arrow pointing in crazy directions. But it turns out, if you look at the silhouette, the design of the arrow was the arrow in Part 4, this plot-sensitive item. Part 4, its ending credits is something similar. Take a look at this clip real quick.
Justice never brand new, better,
that was not just a cool visual decision, that was basically King Crimson's ability. It shows each frame or iteration of a person moving or acting, and Diavolo likes to say that he destroys time. And so the best I've been able to gather is that you see part A, B, C, D, E, F, all the way through Z of a person's final action, and he'll basically destroy parts B through Y, so it looks like something suddenly skips. So Dio, for example, looks like he teleports, but he doesn't. He stops time, walks somewhere, and then unfreezes time so it looks like he teleported. But King Crimson eliminates the time between the first thing and the second thing. So he comes closer to actually blinking forward, or eliminating a bad thing that could have happened. That's the best that I have. I might not be 100% accurate about that, but that's what I gather happens. So I hope that helps. Lady Phantom of Music. Do you think you'd ever play the Outlast games? From what I hear, 2 is really not worth it. 1 might be, though, so maybe? Elemental Hero Joe. What video game made you cringe the most with its voice acting? Huh. There are games with delightfully bad voice acting. For me, it's not going to be games like Resident Evil 1. It's usually more games where it's just flat. Like, damn you, you killed my brother. You know, like stuff like that, where, like Castle of Shikigami, I forgot if it was 2 or 3, it might have been 3. The one that America got, like, on the PS2 and Wii, I think. That was, the voice actors really just phoning it in. There's also Chaos Wars on the PS2, which was literally the director and his family just like, here, sister, you read a line. And like, okay, I guess, like, that's what that was. So once again, you know, we have to save the city. You know, stuff like that. But for people who, like, are like, I'm gonna act, you can tell when they're, like, acting, but they're not professionally trained for a long period of time. So Time Gal was kind of difficult to sit through, the English version. Like, you can't catch me, you can't catch me. It's like, ah, jeez. I don't know, man. So maybe that. Have you ever played the Professor Layton series? Nope. Until very recently, I did not get a DS or a 3DS. So maybe I'll try that at some point. I would like to. Groovy George. Would you ever do a Let's Play of Deadly Premonition? Yeah, I would like to. Although I hear it's very reminiscent of Twin Peaks, so I kind of want to watch the series first. God knows when I'll do that, but Deadly Premonition does look like a lot of fun. Santiago Scarpino, what do you think of the dub of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure? Barely any comment. I've heard very little of the dub. I watched it subbed when it came out, and I didn't rewatch the entire anime with dub, so I've only heard tiny clips. From what I've heard, it sounds fine. I'm just used to the sub. Jason the Curator, do you have a favorite sport that you watch? Nope. Like, unless you count the finals of Street Fighter at EVO, or whatever matches of the Overwatch League that my friend Luminaire shows me, or if you count this at all, the game's done quick speedruns. But otherwise, nope, don't watch sports. Mad Morpheus Gaming, what's the scariest experience you've ever had playing a video game Let's Play or not? Sorry, I didn't realize this. I basically got that question, so I told you that, right? The Silent Hill 3 stuff, the Eternal Darkness stuff, that Resident Evil, not really a clear moment in the game, but you've probably had it happen at some point before. Stuff like that has been quite spooky, the White Day Crawler, so there are those. Most entertaining. Viz, is there any video or Let's Play you regret making in hindsight? Not that I regret making, I've mentioned this one before, but I regret the quality of my microphone in a lot of my PC Let's Plays from several years back, because I boosted the amp, so you heard this kind of feedback sound, like whenever I'm talking. It was pretty obnoxious. So what would you change or do instead with them? Not futz with the microphone, that's what I would do. Is there any horror game I played going into, expecting the worst, but came out of it genuinely chilled? Not really expecting the worst. Maybe I've been more impressed with some horror games than I thought I would, like White Day. Like, oh, let's try this one out. And it ended up scaring the hell out of me. But I haven't really gone like, oh boy, this is going to be garbage. I mean, maybe Survivor 1, it definitely did not leave me chilled, but it was better than I thought it would be. Have you done or plan to do a series on that in the future? Well, that's kind of already been covered. So like, I don't know if I really have any outstanding horror games that pleasantly surprise me that I haven't already played that I want to Let's Play later. So, do you have any films that are guilty pleasures? Not really. Usually, if I like a film, I don't feel guilty about it. Like, I know it's not very good, but I like Star Wars The Phantom Menace. Deal with it. Like, this isn't a fight, so who cares? I mean, there are the Neil Breen movies. Those are straight up bad, but those are so entertaining. But not for everybody. Or something you find underrated and would love to bring attention to. That's a tougher one. It's not easy for me to think of films where people said they're bad, but I stand up for them. I don't really know offhand. Like, there aren't many movies that I feel that I need to play devil's advocate for. Like, oh, they aren't that bad. I don't know, Ben Affleck Daredevil? People really crap on that movie, but it's not bad. I don't really actually don't know why people whine about it. Is it because it's grimdark? I understand that, but outside, like, it's a good movie. I don't know. And since I love video game OSTs as well, what are some underrated tracks in video game OSTs? Individual tracks, that's tough. I mean, some of the Sonic the Hedgehog games that people never played have amazing OSTs, but that's not even underrated, that's just underrepresented. I forgot, damn. There was, like, I don't know how many people played Sonic Rush, but there's a track, Haunted Ship, which is just insanely good, that I never heard before, because I never played the game either. But, like, whoa. And again, this is not underrated, it's underrepresented, but the entire original Nier soundtrack, because Nier kind of went undiscovered before I think people discovered that it tied into Drakengard, which people also didn't really care about. But then Nier Automata came out, and everyone's like, whoa, my god, Nier Automata is the best game ever. So, like, original Nier, that soundtrack is crazy good. Like, it's fantastic. If you want a really good, relaxing time, listen to Seafront, the town theme. That's just amazing. Or for a dungeon, the Junk Heap level is surprisingly laid back for what it is. That whole game soundtrack is just beautiful. Armageddon 3035 asks, what got you into doing video games on YouTube? This is something I've covered before, but back when I was a super fan of That Guy with the Glasses, it's since changed its name to Channel Awesome, but there was a contributor on that site named Paw, like cat or dog paw, and he had done a Let's Play of King's Quest V. Now, at the time, I was against the idea of Let's Plays, because I figured either I've already played the game and don't need to see someone else do it, or I had not played the game, and therefore, no spoilers, please. So, I gave Paw's Let's Play a shot because nobody that I knew King's Quest. Like, my family grew up with that in a vacuum. There was like one kid from my elementary school that knew King's Quest, but nobody else. So I see this YouTuber doing King's Quest. Actually, it was on Blip at the time. And I was like, whoa, someone else knows this game? Okay, let me see what he thinks of it. And that was step one. I realized that that's why you can watch Let's Plays, to see somebody's take on it. But step two, I noticed that he was doing like editing tricks, like if he ever wandered around in circles forever and had to find his way toward where he wanted to go, he like fast forwarded and put some music over it so it wasn't just a slog. And he had amusing, humorous commentary as well. It wasn't just like, let's get this item next. Good. Now we need to use it here. Like he was doing, he was keeping people interested with his charisma. So I was like, oh, that's what Let's Plays can be like. Okay. Maybe I should do King's Quest VI then, because that's the one I'm really familiar with. So it took me like a year to do King's Quest VI, but I did get started with other Let's Plays up to that point. So that's how I got into doing, at least YouTube. What got me into video games was I forgot if it was for a birthday or a holiday, probably a holiday, but my uncle and cousins got my family a Model 2 Sega Genesis back when my brother and I were kids. So we were like, alright, let's see what this is like. And then we played Sonic the Hedgehog 2, which came with it. And that was it, man. We were hooked ever since. And Kadejana, follows up on this question asking, regarding doing YouTube, are you doing this for fun? Like, what got you into it? For fun? Or not enough people are aware of this old gem or whatever? It was for fun, and it still mostly is just for fun, but every once in a while I'll pick a game like God of Thunder, where it's like, hey, bet you never heard of this. It turns out more people heard of it than I thought, but, you know. But still, mostly for fun. But every once in a while I'll pick out something that I think deserves a shout-out. Fakaphon. Ignoring things like calories or nutritive value, like if you could just eat it forever without any negative consequences, what food do you think you'd be able to eat on a near-daily basis? I don't know, probably either like spaghetti and meatballs or maybe like pizza. If I do pizza like once per day, I can't do anything for like every meal. I would get tired of that so fast, but I could envision doing something like that, or maybe like a corned beef sandwich on rye bread, because that's just like irresistible. Again, assuming no negative nutritional value, because a corned beef every day would like kill you. Why do you think companies who have the same game on their respective gaming platform will not allow cross-platform multiplayer? Yeah, an obvious example at the time of this recording was, I think it was Fortnite, right? If you have like the Sony version, they refuse to let you cross-play. My guess is probably just like corporate greed without foresight. Like, but what if they do play the game on the other system? I mean, Fortnite's free, so I don't know, maybe it comes down to buying skin. I guess they just really want, they're looking at very short-sighted goals, I would assume. They just want people to buy their stuff right now, and I don't know if they're aware that the general gaming community is only really thinking that they're actively interfering with their gameplay experience. So I'm not a corporate executive, maybe there's some longer-term goal I'm not aware of, but at least it's what it seems like to me. It's just, I want my money now, and I'm like 60 years old, and I don't understand the mindset of 20 to 30-year-olds. Joret, who's your favorite author and why? That is damn tough. I don't know if I have an individual favorite author. I mean, some of my favorite stories I've read were by Isaac Asimov or Ray Bradbury, but I haven't read their collective works or anything. I've just read their particular outstanding stuff, like the Foundations trilogy and the Martian Chronicles. And with Ray Bradbury, I've taken it a step further. I've also read The Illustrated Man and Fahrenheit 451, but those really stood out to me. Roger Zelazny is also really good. A lot of his books are hard to find, but I think you could still find in bookstores the Amber Chronicles. It's just a super creative way of writing. And Stephen King has also had his particularly outstanding works. He has such brilliant ideas. So I don't know if I would have an individual favorite author. I'm really bad at picking favorites. But those are some shout-outs I can give at the very least. And George R.R. Martin also for his A Song of Ice and Fire series. I just wish that would ever finish. That'd be nice. Yeah, that's that question. Manish Pradeep, have you ever gone from finding out about a game's release to instantly deciding to let's play in the future? Not often, but yes. The one that I can think of immediately is probably Asura's Wrath. I had to play that game as soon as I saw its demo at Comic-Con back in the day. That game seemed designed just for me, and that was worth it, man. Would you consider showing your game? Would you consider showcasing your game collection in a series of behind-the-scenes videos? Maybe at some point. It has been a while since I've done a behind-the-scenes video. Maybe. Like, I don't have any plans for that now, and I don't keep the cleanest space. I have like different areas where I have games, but that might be worth looking into. Would you consider adding post commentary to your Lotus Prince Presents videos? Yeah, sometimes I'll have just a commentary-less clip of like, here's what I'm doing in Nier right now. I haven't really thought about doing that. It's not too often that I think, like, let me give some more context for this. Usually it's just, here's a boss fight or something. So I don't usually think that. There may be something at some point if I'm feeling in the right mood for it, but probably not. And what am I currently reading, watching, and playing? Again, at the time of this recording, I've just finished The Giver quadrilogy. So that's The Giver, Gathering Blue, Messenger, and Sun. I'm really happy I finally read those, but I am currently reading Evil Under the Sun by Agatha Christie. Agatha Christie books are fast reads, so I'll probably be done with this soon, but They're always fun to read. It's a good Hercule Poirot mystery. Watching One Piece, because I've been watching that since college. That show's never going to end. Attack on Titan, because Season 3 is playing at the time of this recording. What else do we have going on? For Western TV, I have the Venture Brothers. I don't watch much Western TV, but I'm a sucker for the Venture Brothers, and Rick and Morty when it finally comes back. It's not right now, but Venture Brothers. And playing, I'm working on wrapping up PS3 Nier. I'm actually getting close. I just need endings C and D, which just means bulldoze my way through the bosses up until the final dungeon, and then make a choice between ending C or ending D at the final dungeon. So it won't be long now. Otherwise, every once in a while, I'm into the Binding of Isaac, Rebirth, Afterbirth Plus, just to try to get those last 2 achievements I'm missing. I'm kind of between PC, just games that I'm playing through right now. Like, I finished Shadow Man, so I'm kind of between games on PC. But as far as recording is concerned, I'm on and off with my friend Vice the Bold with Doki Doki Literature Club, and I'm on and off with my friends Old Man Stumpy and Minty Mitts for 999. So I don't know when either of those is going to be finished, because it's not easy to hang out with them. But when we are able to get together, we'll hack away at both of those games. I'm looking forward to doing those. Tiki Sensei, how do you spend your days? My days are pretty mundane, really. I go to work, I come back, I chill out on the internet, or I read something. Like, I mean, obviously there's the stuff, like, what I have to do around the house and eat and stuff like that, but, like, every once in a while I'll hang out with a friend of mine, but I have a very samey kind of day, so, or a very samey kind of life, I should say, so there you go. And there's obviously recording and editing stuff as well, so I'm not the most exciting person to live with. How do you break up your days to fit playing games, less playing, editing, podcasts, working? I mean, it really comes down to my leisure time. If I'm not playing something, like, when it comes to what would be video game time, I either play something if I get some downtime, or I edit something if I need to get something up for the near future. And podcasts, I do those on Sunday or Monday night, depending when the people on the podcast are available. And then I edit those right after we're done recording, so I can knock it out, because it's usually due online shortly after that. Working. I mean, yeah, my job is when my job is, so I do have to work around that. But the actual job, during the summer, I actually have longer work hours than during the school year, because I'm in a tutoring center. But at the school year, I'm at work for like 3 hours, and that's it. But the thing is, when I come home, that's where my hours really add up. It's like a teacher at school. They have longer work hours than I do, but their work is when they get home, when they gotta grade stuff and things like that. I mean, the teaching is obviously work, but there's a lot more where that came from, you know? What kind of food do you like to eat? I kind of answered that question already, but I'll throw in hamburgers, like salmon's pretty good, you know, but like I don't exactly have the most sophisticated appetite. Are you a vegetarian? Well, I think that just answered that question. Nope. Since I do not drink alcohol and soda, what do I like to drink? I mean, I'll have orange juice at breakfast, but otherwise it's pretty much just water. That's about it. I am quite plain. Since I have a bad sense of direction while playing games, does it follow me into real life while driving? I mean, I do tend to go to the same places over and over again, so I get that down. But if I have to go somewhere for the first time ever, I really do have a pretty bad sense of direction. So I'll use a GPS or something. What kind of music do I tend to listen to? I mean, I never turn on the radio, but I'll listen to, like, game OSTs or tracks that I find that I really enjoy when I happen to hear them from somewhere. Like, I really like Michael Jackson stuff and, like, Oingo Boingo. Those are just endless amounts of fun. But there's also the YouTube channel Miracle of Sound. That guy does tributes to movies and games, and sometimes other things. with music that is reminiscent of the things he's paying tribute to, and his work is freaking brilliant. Like, it's unbelievable. I highly recommend you look into him. Fulton Hardy. Do you enjoy the works of David Lynch? The works, like, I've only seen 1 or 2 works, so I can't really answer that question. I saw Eraserhead and liked it, though it freaked me out. I've seen clips of Dune, and I saw his weird-ass PS2 commercials, because, yeah, that was a thing. I like what I saw. I probably would like Twin Peaks as well, just haven't seen it. What's your favorite? I mean, Eraserhead's really all I have, so Eraserhead, I guess. Who is your favorite Smith from Killer 7? That's tough. Khan, probably personality-wise. Coyote's interesting, but I think I like Khan a little more. While Mask is the most bombastic, if I had to do a playthrough and only ever use one Smith, I'd probably go with Kevin Smith because he has perfect aim. He doesn't have that waver thing that every other Smith does. He just has dead aim, and he's perfectly silent, which makes him a blank slate, but probably the most appropriate assassin. And he throws knives, so there's no bang. He's pretty rad. And he can turn invisible. It's like, geez, the perfect Smith. Daniel Dave Taylor, this is the last question. How did you become such a fan of horror series, especially Resident Evil and Silent Hill? Well, Resident Evil, I wasn't really into horror series in general. My neighbor had shown me some Resident Evil 2, and I was like, oh, that game looks pretty cool. But it was really in high school when a friend of mine said that he had gotten Resident Evil Remake. This was the first Resident Evil any of us had experienced. I did not grow up with OG Resident Evil. And this is before, like, maybe we had AIM or something, but at the time we used to communicate on the phone. So he was playing Resident Evil and just kind of telling me what he was doing, and I was just on the phone listening to him with like the landline phone. And what he described made it sound quite scary. So I eventually asked my mom to pick it up for me because I was like 16 or something, so I couldn't buy it on my own. You know, it's ages 17 and up, and I gave it a shot, and it was super scary. So I was kind of into it. So I looked into more Resident Evil games later, which took a while because I was a GameCube guy. I didn't have a PlayStation. So it took me a while to get Resident Evil 2 and 3. Those came out way later. I think my next Resident Evil might have been 0. And I was super into that as well. And then I looked into Code Veronica X, and then I think 2 and 3. And I was hooked. For Silent Hill, again, no PlayStation or PS2 at the time. So I had read something about it. Someone had listed like top 10 scariest, or no, it wasn't top 10. It was like scariest villains in games, or like creepiest, or whatever. And someone had said Pyramid Head for Silent Hill 2, and at the time I had no idea what that meant. Just try to think about it as if you had no idea about Silent Hill anything. Pyramid Head. What does that mean? It's creepy just for that. So eventually I found Silent Hill 2 and 3 on PC at a local store, and they were like $5 each. They couldn't get rid of them. So I was like, okay. So I picked them up, and damn, those games got me. I was super hooked. And then I got Silent Hill 4 when it came out, also on PC. And it was a while before I would get Silent Hill 1, because again, PS1. I didn't get a PS2 for a long time. I only got a PS1 like a few years ago, but you could play PS1 games on the PS2 and PS3, so that's how I did that for a little while. So that's how I got into both of those series, and they've been a fan ever since. So there you have it. That is the Q&A. Thank you very much for submitting your questions. I hope that these were enlightening, and we'll see when we can do another Q&A again. It'll probably be a while from now, because this isn't the kind of thing where I could just send me more questions tomorrow. Like, I'll give people time to get questions. But anyway, thank you very much for your support. And until next time, everyone.